Hi, Spring Arbor students. This is an overview for Module 2 for the MBA600 class. Just got a few things to cover with you here to kind of get us all set up for the next 3 or 4 weeks. Again, make sure you're reading the syllabus and noting the due dates for Module 2, which are in the first week of October. You should be nearly done with some good drafts of chapters 1 and 2. I know some of you are closed in on even completing chapter 3, and so most of us should be back getting close to getting good drafts done of chapters 1 and 2. Remember that unless you've made arrangements with me otherwise, chapters 1 and 2 are due in Blackboard by tomorrow night, Sunday night at midnight. Also remember that responses for the peer review are also due by tomorrow night, Sunday night. If the peers in the groups that I set up are not submitting their documents in time for you to review, then just move on to someone else. Some students are still working on early drafts of chapters 1 and 2, and they're not ready for peer review yet. As a reminder, any of the feedback you get from your peers, if you've already uploaded chapters 1 and 2 to Blackboard, don't worry about it. Catch those edits the next time for when you submit chapters 1, 2, and 3 at the beginning of October. So you can always include those edits and comments from peers at a later time for another, during the next submission cycle. Let's see, regarding the checkpoint requirement for Module 1, if we've corresponded, if you and I have corresponded by email or Zoom, and I have with a number of you, that fulfills the requirement for checkpoint 1. So just note that in the Blackboard grading book there. Just a reminder that this course focuses on completing the final versions of chapters 1, 2, and 3 of your 5-chapter thesis. Chapters 1, 2, and 3 are the research proposal. The proposal is the foundational piece to completing the other course requirement, which is submission and approval of the IRB document, the IRB application. The IRB application must be approved by Spring Arbor's IRB committee before you can begin data collecting. Do not collect data until you have IRB approval, okay? Now remember, we're also doing what's called the exempt form of IRB research here at Spring Arbor University, at least for the business programs. I've talked with many of you by now, and most of you are in the process of creating good drafts of chapters 1, 2, and many of you have started on chapter 3 as well. Once you have a good draft of those chapters, we can start writing the IRB application. Don't attempt to write the IRB application unless you've got already done some reasonably good drafts of chapters 1, 2, and 3. I've explained to many of you, and I'll just do it all for Sal right now, that for the sake of all of us, that once you get a good draft done of chapters 1, 2, and 3, it's really a matter of cutting and pasting from those chapters into the IRB application. The IRB application is just a mini version of chapters 1, 2, and 3, so to speak. So it's key to getting chapters 1, 2, and 3 done to write a good IRB application. I'm going to be forwarding you some links this week from Ina. She has created some instructional videos about the IRB application and the process for her section of students, and you may find them helpful. So I'll make sure you get those links and you can look at them if they're helpful to you. Right now, you should all be working on good drafts of 1, 2, and 3 and starting on chapters 1 and 2, good drafts, and at least thinking about and starting to write chapter 3. At the end of September, first week of October, as Module 2 closes, you'll be uploading chapters 1, 2, and 3 again, which would include a lot of edits and changes and that sort of thing. About the IRB application, because of the high volume of IRB applications and the changing federal requirements, Spring Arbor's IRB committee is in the middle of revising the university's IRB process. So what they're telling me and what they're telling the faculty advisors is this: all the IRBs really have to go through me first. So you and I will work individually on your IRB to make sure it's ready. I know that's kind of obvious because that's what we do anyways, but that's the first step. The next step, I'll send what I think is a very good draft, if not the completed version of your IRB, off to Ina for review. And she'll probably respond back with some tweaks and comments. She understands the process a lot better than most of us, so she has a little bit of an insight there that'll make it the application go through easier. So we'll write it together. I'll send it on to Ina. She'll respond back. I'll get you her responses and her recommended fixes. Change them, fix up the application based on her response. Then the application comes back to me, and I send it on to the IRB committee. So don't send your application directly to the IRB committee, even though the instructions and the application sort of indicate that you would do that. Send your final application, will come to me. I'll send it to the IRB committee, and then they'll get back with me on approval or denial or changes that have to be made. About your thesis, I know that this sounds very basic, but I need to say it anyways just to remind all of you. Make sure your grammar and spell check are turned on in Microsoft Word as you're writing. At this point in your writing, there's no reason for any misspelling or obvious grammar issues. Turn on grammar and spell checking and let Microsoft Word do the work for you. Beginning with Module 2, the submission at the end or at the very beginning of October, I'm going to start deducting points for mechanics and fluency in chapters 1, 2, and 3. Okay. Now I'm going to give you some grace for now because I know that we're kind of working our way through this, trying to glue everything back together, and some of you are still changing your projects. Remember, you are writing a scholarly research paper. You want to build credibility with your readers and your host organization's management. So you have to write in an MBA level paper. All right. This is not high school, folks. This has to come off really well. So beginning with modules 2, I'm going to start challenging and pushing back on bad grammar, fluency issues, mechanics, and that sort of thing. So start working on that now, getting those things right. A note about reference lists versus bibliographies. This is coming up a little bit, so I just want to remind you all of this. A reference list contains a list of the materials that you've actually cited in the body of the work that you're writing, in the body of your paper. If you cite a book, for example, then in the content of your writing, then you must show that reference for that book in the reference list at the end. A bibliography, on the other hand, contains any material that you have read regarding your paper or regarding your topic. Sometimes you read material, but you don't necessarily cite it. It just becomes part of your thinking. That would be included in your bibliography. For this research paper, we are only using reference lists. We are not using bibliographies. So don't attach a bibliography to the research paper, just the reference list, and it must cite everything that you use in the content of your writing. Okay, I think that's it for now. I've been corresponding a lot of you via email and Zoom, and I plan to keep doing that. I'm available most evenings and most weekends. And if I haven't heard from you yet, you need to find me. Send me an email. Let's talk, and so we can get your research on track. All right. Have a great week. Thanks.